So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Matt and Curtis and I. Curtis, you absolutely killed it on here, and we look forward to having you on again down the road for your 7th appearance on the pod. So, now for episode 122 of Eazy Conversations. I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. So, what's up with the people?
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great day right now. It's a glorious time. NHL's back, and we also have a great podcast episode for you guys right now. We're going to be talking about two big shows on Disney+. Eric, why don't you tell the people what they are?
Yes, sir. So for this episode, we're going to be talking about our one of our favorite film series of all time, Star Wars, and the focusing on the two shows that this franchise has released this year on Disney+. Both Mandalorian Season 3 and the inaugural season of Ahsoka on, like I said, Disney+. So, should be a lot of fun to go over those two shows. And then we'll get into some general Star Wars talk, kind of where this franchise is at, where it's headed, what we've liked, what we've seen so far, all that fun stuff. So, figured we'd go back to, I believe it was February or March of this year, which feels like ages ago, when The Mandalorian's third season dropped on Disney+. And we never really got the chance to give our thoughts on this show on the pod, so I feel like now's a good time for that. So Matt, I'll throw it over to you first. What are your thoughts on the third season of the hit show, The Mandalorian?
My initial thoughts were I didn't like them as much as season 1 and 2. Like my initial thought was there was a lot of filler. There was some really good stuff though too. I like the beginning. I like the ending. It was peppered with some filler though. There's a really good story though in this 8 or 10 episode season. Can't remember how many episodes. So I liked it. I just didn't think it'd be better. I don't think it was better than season 1 and 2. I'm going to get more into details later on specific things they threw in there that I wasn't a fan of. Mm-hmm. But my initial thought was it was good, but it wasn't great like season 1 and 2. And this season did get more hate than usual. Maybe people are getting fatigued, but yeah, those are my initial thoughts. Like, what do you think of season 3?
Yeah, I'd almost exactly emulate your thoughts. I enjoyed it. You know, I like tuning in every week, watching the Mando episode, see what they're going to be up to. But it was, for me, a step down from seasons 1 and 2. And I kind of went into this show thinking that, okay, like they nailed the first 2 seasons. If they come out of this with a really solid season, like we're looking at The Mandalorian as one of the top shows out there in recent history when you can nail 3 seasons. And it didn't really reach that level for me. Maybe that's on me holding it to such a high standard. But I do feel like they took a step back in season 3. And for the reasons you listed, lots of filler, and while yes, the story was interesting, they took too many detours, and I also feel like there maybe wasn't enough Mando. There wasn't enough Din in this season. Like they really start to shift on the focus on Bo-Katan. So, anyways, those are my initial thoughts. I'm sure we'll get into more of this specifics concerning what I just said later there, but yeah, I mean, good for sure. But I can say right now, I don't anticipate this season will make my top 10 list of the year because there have been many other shows that I've enjoyed much more. But in saying this, like it's still Mando. I love the world. I love tuning in and seeing what they do. Like there's a lot of really cool moments in this season as well.
Exactly what you just said to that last part. You nailed it, Eric. It looked amazing, like 10 out of 10 for the CGI, the action, the visuals. There was a lot of cool like dog fights and like aerial dog fights, a couple cool sequences with like creatures. But yes, the story was lacking. The story was lacking. They didn't show what I wanted to see the most, which is basically what I want. Okay, so I'm just gonna like full spoilers right now. Obviously, like you have to have watched the season, but like. This focus on the recapture of Mandalore this season and like bringing the glory back. There's a lot of Mandalore mythology in this season. I would have liked just that. I would have preferred this season be condensed into like a 2.5 hour movie just on like the first few episodes and a few last episodes. That would have been a nice movie in my opinion, instead of like having pirate side quests and like a robot malfunctioning side quest, on other planets. Ugh. That I wasn't a fan of. Like the Pirate King, what's his name? It doesn't matter what his name is. I wrote it down again. Gorian
Garp?
Shard. He was ridiculous, right? But like the beginning, it started out great to me. The Apostate episode 1, where they go see the the hardcore sect, with the armor and positives. Like I like that. I like that, and I like the last 2 episodes where they reunite and they're all on Mandalore. You got Axe Wolves with them too, and like when they're reuniting, that's cool. They meet up with like the people that have been there the whole time, and that stuff to me, Eric, that's all I wanted to see the whole time. But we only got that in like 2-3 episodes. Din was absent a lot. Bo-Katan, though, I like her character a lot, Eric. Like, how do you feel about her, and how do you feel about like characters like the Armor and Paz Vizsla? Let's start with those 3.
Yeah, so those are good characters to focus on because I do like all of them, honestly. Rip Paz Vizsla. Never thought I'd shed a tear to see that guy go down, but here we are. That's character development at its finest right there. But no, I don't really have a problem with them like handing over the reins to Bo-Katan, and maybe she's now the Mandalorian that we're following, or is the Mandalorian plural, I don't know. But she is great. The actress nails it. Katie Sackhoff, I believe, which is awesome that she plays Bo-Katan in the animated series as well, voices her, and now gets to play her in live action. Unreal. She's committed to the role, loves the character. I love her in that role. But you're right. I would have also liked to see more of a full-on Mandalore exploration of the ecosystem there, and like what kind of political dynamics are at stake there, like who can become the ruler of Mandalore. And I think we talked about that in our last episode when we covered Mandalorian season 1 and 2, and we talked about our predictions. Like that's what we wanted to see, like a Game of Thrones style political intrigue where different sects of Mandalore were at odds with one another. And I feel like that would have been a better route to go for this season with all the... But we kind of did have the different sects, right? With the Armor and the Creed, as opposed to like the Mandalorians who are fine with taking their helmets off, like Death Watch sect, kind of off-branch, all those people, like Axe Wolves and them. But it didn't really go in the exact direction I guess we both wanted it to go in, and made for not as... thrilling, perhaps.
Yes.
And yeah, the side plots, like that would have cut the whole pirate stuff out, like Monkey D. Garp, essentially, like just get rid of it all, right? And obviously the Coruscant plot, no need for that to be in there. I guess it's a way of showing that there are still those who are loyal to the Empire, start of the First Order coming back up and all that, and Moff Gideon. I'm also sick of Moff Gideon, to be honest. I hope he's dead, but I'm honestly not convinced that he is. They kind of made him go out like a sucker, too. Like, he came back looking pretty cool with his new armor and all that, and the clones.
Yeah.
But that was barely explained. It was just thrown in the mix because why not? And then Din just hits like a couple of buttons, and they're all dead now. So... execution-wise, that's why I say not the strongest. Where like we wanted the political thriller, we got the maybe like basic Disney action plot.
Yeah, like we could have got like an Andor level political intrigue, but we didn't. We got like exactly what you just said. Okay, the whole Coruscant, Dr. Pershing, Elia Kane plot, Shadow Council stuff, like that's, to me, I'm interested in that. I would watch a whole different thing on that, but not in a Mandalorian season.
Exactly.
To me, it doesn't belong there. It belonged in an Andor-esque show. I'd watch a whole show on like a freaking Imperial undercover person trying to bring the glory back. Like that'd be like a House of Cards, Coruscant style. That'd be cool. Yeah. But it was very like jarring to see that intercut with all the Mandalorian stuff. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but like, are they trying to like go back and explain Rise of Skywalker? Like once that came out, people were like, what the hell? Like cloning came out of nowhere. Now they're introducing cloning in everything we see, basically, right?
Yeah.
It's a big plot now. It's a big point of contention. And I guess Dr. Pershing knew too much. That's why he got his memory wiped or something. Yeah. Seemingly by a good guy, but we know she's not. Cool foreshadowing in this for Ahsoka, the stuff that's going to happen in Ahsoka, right? With like the return of a certain individual.
Yeah.
That I like. I like that stuff. I'm not going to lie. That was cool. Moff Gideon. Okay. I am a little tired of him too. Like Giancarlo Esposito is popping up in everything right now, and
Mm-hmm.
like he's pretty badass. But is there Moff Gideon fatigue with me? Yes, as
Yeah.
well. Pray, you said let's go back to Paz Vizsla. That was maybe my favorite scene. His like
Yeah.
his last stand death. Who doesn't love a good last stand death and sacrificing himself? We all wish we could do that. Let's be real here. Don't lie to yourself. And then the Praetorian Guard kind of came out of nowhere, but who cares? That was cool, right,
Yeah.
Eric?
That
What
was
do you think
sick.
of Grogu in this season, by the way?
Yeah.
Like, is he overpowered? Is he? Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, Grogu. I don't want to come off as just complaining about everything here. Like, I like Grogu a lot, don't get me wrong, but I feel like at times, like, the jumping around looks a bit goofy, honestly. Like, it just looks like he's being, like, I don't know, thrown up in the air and then he lands. Like, it's not as smooth as,
Yeah.
like, how we've seen a Yoda maneuver in the Attack of the Clones bouncing off the wall and Revenge of the Sith against Sidious, right? And we can't really expect that level of maneuverability from Grogu. He's still
Mm-hmm.
only 50 years old after all. So he only hits his strides maybe when he hits the 600-year mark. I don't know. But I don't know, like the action scenes with him are they look a bit off. Like when he was running away from
Yeah.
the Praetorian guards or whatever they're called there. I remember I was still into it, but like the whole time you know he's gonna be fine. There's not really the level of urgency or fear with him, which again I don't really mind that. And he did come in clutch with when Moff Gideon like exploded or something. There was the fire that went off, and then he had the Force
Yeah.
shield or aura around his mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
protected them. Yeah, I mean there were some funny moments with him, like in the robot, like saying like no, no, yes, yes. It was pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was what else? I guess him like training to be a foundling was all right.
Getting his armor.
Getting
Getting
his
that piece of
armor,
armor. Yeah.
yeah. I don't really know
He,
what the end
he,
game is with Grogu. Honestly, I don't know
mm-hmm.
where we're headed with him. Like now he is a Mandalorian. I would like him to maybe be able to speak down the road or something, because
Yeah.
right now he's kind of just like a cute prop who comes in on the like fourth down, fourth and long, and somehow makes the Hail Mary play to get us that extra, the touchdown at the end of the game kind of thing. Like he's a cheat code. Let's be real here.
Wow.
So it's like cheering.
Beautifully said.
It's like when Alfie appears on the jumbotron at the Sens game, the whole place goes nuts. Automatic vibe changer, right? So yeah, Grogu. Obviously, I like Grogu though. Don't get me wrong. And I also just want to comment on your point about wanting to see a show follow like Underworld Coruscant and the
Mm-hmm.
Empire re establishing its dominance and just getting back on its feet. Agreed with you 100%. Would love that kind of show, but it just felt inserted in here at the wrong time maybe and took away from like we want to follow
Mm-hmm.
Mando here
Yeah.
on Mandalore, not helping Jack Black and Lizzo one-off episode. So yeah,
Yeah. That episode had a lot of controversy in terms of like people are trashing it online and people are not a big fan of that episode because it was a filler episode and
Yeah.
a little ridiculous. It is jarring seeing Jack Black and Lizzo because you can't picture them in this world because you know them so well in our real world. You said amazing things about Grogu. That's exactly what he is. He is a cheat code. He's like the plot, like armor for Din. You know he's not gonna die. You know when
yeah,
that ship's coming down in the last episode that they're not gonna like explode. You know he's there. He's funny, but then he's like also the most overpowered
yeah,
member of the party. For those who have seen Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the animated show, just transitioning into something else now. There's like 4-part episode on Mandalore where there's like epic fights and political intrigue, basically what you want to see on a live action show. But this was during when Mandalore was an actual city,
yeah,
and there's a lot of cool fights, like Mandalorians fighting each other, and there's a lot of cool like action, which I thought the show captured really well. The live action show,
yeah,
the Dark Troopers versus the Mandalorians, all the different gangs coming together. That was really well done, actually. That I was impressed by
yes,
that in the last few episodes. That we got high level, like really well done CGI that you don't expect from a TV show. I guess you should expect it. You should expect it actually because we've seen it in season 1 and 2. The action, the budget really is like producing good action here. even like with all the creatures, like we see like that bat dragon that little bird that stole Ragnar to Paz Vizsla's like foundling. Now you see, like it's cool to watch, but we don't really care. We want the story to move along.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the mythology, with the mythosaur and Bo-Katan, like kind of like it's like giving her a rebirth and like regaining her momentum to recapture like the former glory of Mandalore. That was a mouthful. That was cool to see. And okay, here's a question for you. The Darksaber, did you think that was like a cheap way of giving it back to Bo-Katan, saying like he got captured, he got disarmed, she attacked his captor, disarmed, like, did you like how the Darksaber got transitioned, or did you think that was too cheap?
So a bit of both. I do think it was like a neat little loophole that kind of prevented our two protagonists from having to fight and like have a conflict arise there over ownership of the Darksaber. For sure, it was like an easy way out, right? I don't really mind it, to be honest, because I didn't want Din and Bo-Katan to go at it against each other. So it was fine. Like I accepted it. Like they did need to move the plot along in like having everyone be on the same page and acknowledge her as, okay, she's the leader here. He doesn't want to be the leader. Like we've said before, he's the Jon Snow. He never wanted it. So just give it to Bo-Katan and not have this Jon Snow has to kill Daenerys. Spoiler. And then we can move along happily ever after. So no, it was fine, honestly. Didn't the Darksaber get broken though at the end? Like if I'm remembering correctly, that sucks. Like I was definitely disappointed to see that. That's one of the coolest, if not the coolest weapon in Star Wars. So hopefully they can find a way to bring it back into the mix in the next season. And you're right, the live action battles in Mandalore were unreal. I was hooked. Episodes 7 and 8 were the best in my opinion. Like they ended the season very strongly and has me hooked. I'm very excited for the next season. Like I just want that to be clear. Like I'm still all in on the Mandalorian. I love it. But
absolutely.
And the Mythosaur, I want to see more of it. I thought we'd see it pop up maybe in this season as well. It kind of reminded me of the There's Always a Bigger Fish in Phantom Menace that just yeets both those fish in Naboo under the planet core. Yeah, no, a lot of good stuff there. And the religious zealots, I think they're moving on. They're all now, or no, they're all in the Creed now or whatever. So. Interesting to see. I thought we'd see more of Din without his helmet this season too, but I think Pedro Pascal was too busy filming The Last of Us, so actually wasn't even on set for some of these. So I honestly thought, and I think this is the direction they should have gone into, end of episode 7, when they closed the blast doors, and then Din was on his own on the platform with like all of Moff Gideon's Dark Troopers, if that's what they're called, I forget. And then they had him like roped up, like tied to the floor. I thought Moff Gideon was gonna honestly snap his head off, like Anakin did Count Dooku in Revenge of the Sith, and I would have been fine with that, to be honest. I think that would have been a bold and gutsy play to kill the Mandalorian, but then you're just truly passing the torch on to Bo-Katan as she's the Mandalorian now. I think that would have been a good move, honestly. Good shows aren't afraid to take risks and pull those punches. I was a bit disappointed that they didn't go that route, but of course I still love Din as a character, so it's not the end of the world. But I think that would have been a good move to make. What are your thoughts on that kind of take?
I like that kind of take a lot, Eric. That's what like makes a show more emotional. You're more invested. You want to tune in the next week, the next season. You love it or hate it. It's when you know a show's willing to do that, you're tuning in and you're like on the edge of your seat, kind of like Game of Thrones in the first few seasons. Like you didn't know what the hell was gonna happen. But it's Disney and Star Wars, like they're never gonna do that. I doubt ever like anything bad's gonna happen to Din. Another character that I don't think anything bad's gonna happen to. This guy's popping up everywhere. Captain Teva.
Oh God.
You're not a fan? He's like everywhere.
Don't worry.
He's a scout.
I have a bone to pick with Carson Teva, but go on.
Teva, yeah. Just good to say, like, what are your after like before you give us your thoughts, I'll say like he's like the liaison like all the time. Like he's the one that goes to get the Creed Mandos to help out Din and stuff. Like he's basically like the liaison between the New Republic and whoever we're following, be it in either show really. Honestly, he's popping up in the two shows we're talking tonight. I don't mind his character. I like seeing X-wings in action, but we are seeing a lot of them. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm curious.
Well, I've already kind of shown my hand as to how I feel. Too much Carson Teva. Like, we got to just pull it back a little bit on him. Like, just give us season 4 with no Carson Teva, please. And it's hilarious. I listened to a pod that obviously they analyze The Mandalorian and all these Star Wars shows. There's a guy, one of the hosts on the podcast, feels the same way as me about Carson Teva. Felt very validated in my take that I'm not the only one who's sick of seeing this guy. Always, whenever you see an X-wing roll up in the sky, you know it's CT rolling up. And so, but you're right. He's never gonna get clipped. I think. Anyways, when we get to Ahsoka, we can talk about his involvement there. But yeah, too much of him, in my opinion. He's a fine character. Don't get me wrong, but like, is there no one else in this New Republic that can be making these kind of trips and roll up? Like, give us Dave Filoni. He's popped up a couple of times. Like, let's see him next time. Or Deborah Chow, I believe. I think they just keep throwing like the directors and showrunners of these other Star Wars shows. They keep popping up, which I don't mind that at all. But yeah, Carson Teva, just a bit much for my liking. But give us Zeb. Like, they gave us a nice tease of him, right? He showed up in one episode chopping it up with Carson at the bar. But that was a quick cup of tea. And you're right, I just want to say real quick on Din. Like, they're obviously probably not going to kill him there. The show would lose a lot of its appeal. Like, Pedro Pascal's one of the biggest stars nowadays. Like, you're losing a lot of points with the ratings if you're getting rid of him, right? So I understand that they didn't want to take that shot, but I would have respected it is all I have to say. But yeah, Carson Teva, I mean, I don't know what else I can say at this point. I know he's going to be in season 4, probably Ahsoka season 2. In the eventual movie covering this kind of timeline, Star Wars, he's probably going to have a little appearance in there. So, good for him, I guess, but a bit much. Let me know. Hey, if anyone else feels that way, please let me know. I want to know if I'm alone on this take.
No, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people agree with you. Just quick, now I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Peli Moto on Mos Eisley?
Same thing. Too much of her, honestly. Every single season she's rolling up. Like, we're going on, we see the outline of Tatooine in the distance there. I know what the first stop is. Always her and her droids. She's talking about her like one night stand with a Jawa. Like, we don't need to hear about this. You know?
See, that's the stuff that could have just been cut, in my opinion. Like, that's the stuff that filled 2-3 episodes that was a little boring. Not boring, just like we've seen this before. Like I said, like the first 2-3 episodes loved, the last 2 loved. It was the middle stuff. It was cool to see like Grief Karga, like the town getting invaded by pirates, and then the Mandos all take them down. Like, that was cool to see, but I mean, the Pirate King was ridiculous.
So I'm at a point.
Pirate King.
I'm at a point with the Mandalorian that I don't really want to see these little side adventures anymore. Like, whereas, to get this information, you need to do this mission for this person who knows where the location is of XYZ. Like, I just want them to move the plot forward into maybe getting into like what you talked about earlier, like the Shadow Council, the cloning. Let's get more just straightforward answers about that, and maybe even like the restoration of Mandalore and all that. That's where I want this show to go, and I wanted it to go in this season as well. I feel like season 1, that's fine with the one-off missions. Even there's some in season 2, but there was a bit of a plot in wanting to find a Jedi for Grogu, right? Like, we want to reunite him with his kind and all that. But now season 3, like, it should have really just been a focused Mandalore plot, but it wasn't really. So hopefully they now go the clone route and building up the First Order. Like, that's what I think all these shows are building towards, which I like. Don't get me wrong. I like the direction they're going in. All these pieces are being placed, and we got Thrawn, the big boy at the top, who, like you, I'm glad they name dropped. I thought he was going to be in this season, honestly. I thought we'd get a little tease of him at the end. I did like that Shadow Council. Like, you saw, what's his face? Hux. I think it was like his father or his brother though. Apparently it wasn't the Hux from the sequel trilogy, which I thought that was cool. And yeah, so that was good stuff. Hopefully we get more of that behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, that's the stuff I love the most. Like the really important stuff. I think Disney has this thing where they like the side quest. They like making it like, if you watch any Saturday morning cartoon or anime show, like there's lots of filler episodes, and they like penciling that in because it's fun and it's not serious all the time. I really think it's for all ages, right? This show, it's not like super violent. So I think the younger people watching the show love those episodes. You know, it's more silly. It's not as serious. The stakes aren't as high. To me, you know, I want to see the stuff that you want to see too, Eric. So I don't know. Overall, good season. Wasn't great or wasn't fantastic, really.
Yeah.
I agree with you at the top 10. Like, there's been a lot of solid shows this year.
Yeah.
Actually, the more the year, like, closer we get to the end of the year, like, I have a good list of shows I've watched, and there's a lot of good stuff.
Same.
But yeah, this one wasn't the greatest.
I think it's like I'd give it like a B, honestly. I think that's a fair rating for this season.
That's good.
B
Very
plus.
fair.
I feel like it'd be maybe pushing it because there was quite a bit that I didn't really love. That being said, though, I feel like every week when I was tuning in, I wasn't like walking away with it being mad or disappointed. There's always something I liked in every episode, but if you're looking at the season as a whole, too much filler, too many weaknesses to really give it like above that, in my opinion.
Yeah, well said. I just want to mention this before I don't want to miss this, but Grogu has like a flashback of this Jedi helping him escape when the younglings are getting killed. That was cool. Jedi Caloran Beck, he was pretty cool, and you kind of find out more on that. I'd love to see the Order 66 fallout, like more of that, whether through flashbacks or other means. But that's such a cool period where there's more Jedi than we think that have escaped, that have made it out of that. So like that's a really cool, interesting. We only got like such a 5-10 minute segment in Revenge of the Sith, which is heartbreaking, by the way. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But Order 66 is super fascinating. I bet you there's books on it, like Star Wars books on it, and like they go into detail. But like that's a cool period. They even touch on it in the last few episodes of Clone Wars. That whole period is probably the best in Star Wars. You know, Anakin's downfall, Darth Vader's arises, and all that. Like that's really cool stuff. And any flashback we get of it, I'm gonna love.
At this rate, it's like more Jedi survived than the ones who died from Order 66. They keep popping up every show. There's like, yeah, you got this guy now and this girl. Like they're all just coming up out of the woodworks. But no, it was a great flashback. I loved it, and I forget if we talked about this on an older pod, but that actor is the one who played Jar Jar in the prequel trilogy.
Oh,
yeah, which is pretty sick. So like you love to see him come back into the Star Wars universe where he dealt with a lot of hate, unfortunately, online, which is completely undeserved. I just rewatched Phantom Menace the other day. I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which might be insane to give. But I just love that movie. I don't see anything wrong with it. And I have no issue with Jar Jar himself. You'll never catch me saying a bad thing about Jar Jar Binks. So I'm glad they gave him his flowers. And let's bring him back. Give some more Kelleran Beck flashbacks or full series. Who knows? But he was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think could probably segue over to. Go ahead, Matt.
No, that's all I need to say on Mandalorian. Why don't you intro Star Wars Rebels? I mean Ahsoka.
Yeah. So the next show we're gonna talk about is one that was a character that has been introduced actually in live action in Mandalorian season 2. Was in Book of Boba Fett for a couple of episodes, or maybe just one, I forget. And a fan favorite from the Clone Wars show and Star Wars Rebels and other animated show, Ahsoka. This was announced quite a few years ago that she'd get her own live action standalone show. But like Matt said, this show really was a continuation of the animated show Star Wars Rebels, which ran for, I think, 4 or 5 seasons. Great show, first of all, if you haven't seen it. I'm curious what your experience was watching Ahsoka, having not seen Star Wars Rebels, because this really was okay, it was the 5th season because there's 4 seasons. This was the 5th season of Rebels, essentially. You're following all the same characters from that show. And they did a bang-on job at bringing the characters to life from that animated show. But focusing on Ahsoka herself, I really enjoyed this show, honestly. I felt like it got better as we got into each episode. Little to no filler. I don't think there was any filler in this season, honestly. As from episode 4 onward, it really hit its stride, and a great build up towards the final culmination of the season. So, loved the story in this one. Loved the characters, old and new, that they introduced, and just great Star Wars. Like a lot of lightsaber action. So those would be my opening thoughts. Matt, what about you?
My opening thoughts are, I love this show too. Whether that's with my nostalgia glasses on or not, like, because I love Star Wars Rebels, like, I think this was a super solid show. Linear storytelling. Okay, I'll just say it now. This is basically the closest I'm going to get to, like, Lord of the Rings being in Star Wars in terms of more fantasy elements being introduced into Star Wars, which we've seen in Clone Wars and Rebels, but now we see it live action. I love, those are my, like, 2 favorite franchises. I love the whole witchcraft fantasy angle that they showed us, and I want to see more of that. So yeah, no, Eric, this show was awesome. I wasn't in tears, but like I had goosebumps, like seeing all the Rebels characters come to flesh. Like I just needed like a Kanan Jarrett, a Kanan like flashback or something, just to like see him, what he would look like live action. Because in my head, I didn't picture what they would look like in live action, right? Yeah. And then every time, like when we see Ezra, when we see Hera, they're perfect. Sabine was great. I wasn't sure after episode 1, but she grew on me. Did you like the whole like her getting trained as a Jedi angle and being a little stubborn? Like that grew on me after a while.
Yeah, grew on me for sure. At first, I found it, like you would say, a bit jarring at first. I was like, okay, right. I was running it back in my head. Like, was there ever any mention of her being force sensitive in Rebels? Like, it escaped my mind. Like, I've only seen the show once. It was a few years ago, so maybe I'm forgetting it. But it felt like out of nowhere to me. Like, oh, we tried to make her my apprentice before, but let's see if it works this time. I was like, what? She has a lightsaber? Like, I just forgot about all this stuff, really. But as we went along, and I'm also glad it was a very gradual ascent until it was like a massive ascent at the end of the season. Yeah. But honestly, like it's fine. We need our Jedi out there. There's big fish to fry out there, and she did take a lot of L's in the season too. Like Shin, I'm trying to get her name right. Shin Hati. She was she had her number a couple of times. And a lot of good action scenes in there. Like yeah, Sabine, a bit whiny at first, but you understand there would be some maybe resentment with Ahsoka in their like mentor-mentee dynamic, being a little stubborn. But the Ahsoka we're seeing now is like way more wise than the one we've seen in the animated shows, right? So interesting to see. But yeah, they did a great job at making all the live action character transitions smooth, going kind of in order, I guess. Like, where to start, really? Like, Ahsoka herself, I really enjoyed. She was more like I said, cerebral. Didn't talk as much as we're used to seeing her in the animated shows, where she's like a chatterbox. But here she's like really wise and collected, and has a slower pace in her like fighting style too, which I enjoyed a lot. Like I thought she had some of the best fighting scenes in the show, and that's saying something. Like, there's a lot of different styles. Like everyone had their own lightsaber style in there too. Like I just want to mention Balin off the rip. Like he was unreal as a newer character. But yeah, so Sabine, like I said, solid character, grew on me. Again, would have been a crazy punch if she died in the first episode. I was pretty convinced she wasn't dead because it was episode 1. Like, reintroducing her when she has her dynamic with Ezra, and we're not even going to get them reunited until later in the season, so.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about let's talk about what this show did, which is not answering all our questions right away, giving us teasing us with we have to work it out for ourselves. Balin's super mysterious. They don't give us all the answers, even till the very end, which I don't know where they're going with this character since Ray Stevenson's no longer with us. But and they didn't give us freaking detailed explanations on the distant galaxy that they were going in, the whales that transported them. They didn't flood us with dialogue, just exposition dialogue. They let us I don't know how someone with not watching Rebels would feel about this show, just getting flooded by all these characters, and where they're are we supposed to know who these are? Why is there so much emotion between them? You see, I'm super into Rebels, so I know all this already, but I don't know how a newcomer would feel. But I guess Star Wars does that. It's you gotta watch the back catalog.
Yeah.
Okay, Balin, one of the best entrances ever, in episode 1, just taking down dudes and super calm. You talking about Ahsoka being calm?
Yeah.
Balin is the picture of stoicism and being just a ruthless. You quoted him in the last episode we did, right, Eric? That was, which is a quote. It's actually a Louis the 14th quote.
Oh, really?
Impatience and victory guarantees defeat. Yeah, that's I googled that. Actually.
I thought it was a Balin Skull original. Still a cold line though.
Oh my god, haunting. And the choreography with the lightsabers, to me the highlight was Ahsoka versus Morgan Elsbeth.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome.
So good.
She was great character. I loved her character actually. And I know the actress is into martial arts too, so she did all her own stuff. The Night Sisters of Dathomir, I love those. You see them in the Clone Wars. Some of the best episodes you'll ever see. Now they're brought to life. They look great. And just the voice, the voice was perfect. I was waiting for that because there's always when they talk, you get the background, it echoes a little bit. That was beautifully done. This whole show is, like I said, there's no fill. Like you said, there's no filler. It's all leading towards a big event. This big event being the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Which, again, if you haven't seen Rebels, you're what's the big deal? Who the hell is this guy? Why is he so important? Why is he gone? All that's explained in Rebels. But honestly, the payoff was there. Once we got him, he was amazing. Lars Mikkelsen, phenomenal. Eric, talk about Thrawn. Did he meet every expectation you had?
Yeah, I mean, so that's 2 for 2 now in terms of blue animated characters that become some of my favorite characters in Star Wars, and Cad Bane and Grand Admiral Thrawn. And you did a great job at introducing how he was introduced, in that the whole season is building up to his return and our protagonist wanting to find Ezra Bridger, who sacrificed himself to go to this other galaxy to get rid of Thrawn because he's such a threat. So he exiled himself to make sure that this guy was out of the picture and could not cause any harm in our galaxy. So the whole season was teeing up his return, and you kind of knew he was going to get out, because I kind of anticipate him, Thrawn, being the Kickstarter to how the First Order was established and how they put the New Republic, which we've seen as being kind of a disorganized mess and not being aware of the threats that are coming up. Very incompetent, honestly, and he's going to exploit that as soon as he's back. And his last lines are "Long live the Empire." Well, he's going to make the Empire come back as soon as he's back home, so to speak. So we only got a taste of what he can do as a tactical, military mind in this season. I think when he's back on home soil, he's going to mess some stuff up. And they're headed to Dathomir now, so the rumor is that they had coffins on their ship. So what's in those coffins, right? I'd like to see a Darth Maul race kind of be brought into the mix. That'd be pretty cool, because they're that's kind of the race I see being on Dathomir. That's where Darth Maul and Savage Opress are from. So it would be cool to see that. But anyways, so I think Thrawn, great return. He's shown to not really care, to make sacrifices in battle. Those losses are acceptable. That's fine. We slowed them down, all that. Cool, calm, and collected under pressure. and you just knew he was gonna throw Morgan Elsbeth to the wolves. Like, yeah, hey, we need a bit more time, so unfortunately, there's not enough room on this ship for you. And that was like very predictable. But I also want to show her some love in that they took a character in one season of The Mandalorian, who had a nice fight scene with Ahsoka. I actually loved that episode, The Jedi. Very like samurai-esque, super cool cinematography, and really fleshed her out in this season and made her level up and become a stronger villain. I wasn't even sure if she'd die, to be honest. I thought maybe she'd get the upper hand on Ahsoka, and they kind of just part ways, and we're keeping Morgan Elsbeth around for season 2 of Ahsoka. But obviously, she did get cut down by Ahsoka there. But great fight scene. You're right. That was the best fight scene of this season. She was moving out there, like quick feet. Very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I read that the actress who plays Morgan Elsbeth's dad was like Bruce Lee's student and like
cool.
a huge martial artist himself, and she just took into her father's. She's like a black belt in many disciplines.
Nice.
So, yeah, she's pretty badass. Gonna go back to something you said at the beginning. Ahsoka is way more mature in this show. Complete opposite, like you said, she never shuts up in Clone Wars, and it's slightly annoying sometimes, but like everyone's complaining about that she's not the same or Rosario Dawson isn't playing her right. No, she's way older now. She's mature. She's realized, like, hey, you don't have to talk for nothing. You master your emotions, like Grand Admiral Thrawn never changes the cadence of his voice. Like, he always sounds the same. You don't know if he's happy, annoyed, mad. It's very scary, to be honest. It's a chilling performance.
Yeah.
Acceptable losses.
Yeah.
Like,
nice.
Like you see him in action in Rebels a lot, which is cool. Like like his in the space fights, like he's like a chess master moving pieces on a board. It's beautiful to watch. Another character I really liked, actually, because I also like the actress who plays Hera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She did great as Hera, in my opinion. I liked her fighting, like talking to the council and like trying to get her way and defying them. She was pretty badass. A big character I liked too in Rebels, and she was just as good in live action. I'll just go to the last scene, and like when Ezra sees Hera for the first time and like Chopper comes rolling, that was like very touching in my opinion. That gave me goosebumps when he came back home finally. I don't know how Ahsoka and Sabine are going to get back home though. Like, what do you think is going to happen with that, Eric?
Yeah, I have no idea, honestly. It's going to be I'm guessing it'll be Purgle related, like the space whales. That's probably an easy answer in terms of like they got there through the space whales, so they'll get back with the space whales.
Right.
Who knows though? Like, it could be something else. It could be what it looks like they're teeing up with Balin is like he's those like that statue he was on is like the plot of in Clone Wars there was like that, and I have to rewatch these episodes. There was like with the father, the son, and the daughter there about like one's the light side, one's the dark side, the other one's like the balance. The father's the balance of both there. Maybe some sort of like supernatural force will help them transcend space and time or something like that. I don't know if that makes any sense in terms of the lore that they're setting up with them, but I could see that coming into play. Otherwise, is it just for like, and I think they're going to recast Balin's character, honestly.
Yeah.
A rumor I've seen online, or someone people want to see play him as Liev Schreiber. I always forget how to say his name. But I could see him like having that kind of aura of a Balin, and then would he help them get back home, kind of thing of like, there's no room for you, like you're meant to be somewhere else. Like Balin's kind of I don't think he's a villain, honestly. He's just down the middle. When like the greater good needs to intervene, like he could be the shepherd, and then he can also be the like the shaman of death, if you will. So I mean, I think he'll play a big role there. And but they're for sure coming back, right? Like you can't just have Ahsoka and Sabine stuck there forever. Like that's a no-brainer. They're coming back. And Ezra, glad to see him back in our galaxy. Just want to comment on him real quick there. I thought the actor did a good job at portraying him. He was definitely very goofy. He I mean, I guess that's his character, right? Like he keeps it light while also being serious and a skilled Jedi. So I think the actor really nailed that aspect of the character, and it was cool to see him get the lightsaber back. The force pushing was all right, but I was hoping he would get a weapon and we could see him like flex his lightsaber skills again. So I'm glad we got to see that later in the season, and yeah, I'm wondering also to see like if there's ever gonna be something between him and Sabine, or are they really just like a bro sis situation? If they want to be Jedi, like they have to abandon all attachment, but maybe he'll fall in the footsteps of his master Caleb Doom, and just like no, I want to have a kid. So who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of great characters, and I actually want to ask people listening, like if you didn't watch Rebels, let us know. Like, how was the viewing experience for you? Were you lost? Do you want to watch Rebels? Just pause this, let us know, and then go back to listening.
No, like that's a freaking amazing question, because like the show completely changes if you haven't seen Rebels. You're more like questioning everything, and you might not be attached to the characters. I went into the show attached to the characters right even before the show started. So, and I didn't even know they would include all the Rebels characters to that extent. So that was a welcome surprise. And Balin Skull, whatever the agenda of the good guys and the bad guys are, it doesn't matter to him. He's doing his own thing. He wanted to be exactly where he was at the end. And his fighting style, extremely like precise and doesn't waste like a freaking movement at all. It's like kind of like old school, I don't know what you call that, like kendo, like samurai fighting, where it's super precise but super strong. Like when he delivers a thrust, it's very strong. You can see like the power he has. I love that this show didn't rely on too much like sci-fi technology, but more on like supernatural stuff. That was cool. Traveling to distant galaxies. We've never seen that in Star Wars. That was in the lore already, like talked about, but that like now we see it. There's new possibilities now with Star Wars, basically. Because every time we hear like we have the outer rim and like the inner rim, I guess, and like we don't really know what else is out there, but there's a hell of a lot more. So it expanded the world of Star Wars, introduced new ideas. That's why I love this show. Super easy to follow, like linear storyline, no filler. It was super cool. I love like Thrawn's like Star Destroyer just parked over that pillar for like 2 episodes. That was cool. Like he's just waiting to bounce. Like preparations have to be made, and it's like I love that. Ezra was cool. It's cool to see Ezra fight. He's pretty damn strong, but I mean, if you see him in Rebels, like how he gets up there in terms of strength. What did you think, Eric, of what's his face? Oh, the robot Hu Yang. Did you like that character? Like, we need a robot for every series, I guess.
Yeah. I think, that's become a staple. Like you said, like every season now they're introducing this new, like, maybe forward-thinking droid, very self-aware, kind of trying to be funny and all that.
Yeah.
I think he had his moments, Hu Yang, but overall I wasn't overly attached. I feel like a lot of people were huge Hu Yang fans online. I saw, like, if they kill Hu Yang, I'm going to riot. I'm like, no, just clip Hu Yang. Like, if someone's got to go, like, let's make it him. I didn't really care that much about him, to be honest. Apparently, the actor who plays him, too, is the one who plays Barty Crouch Jr. Someone asked me if I recognized that it was him. Like, how could I possibly have known that? You know what I mean? But it was tough to identify with, like, the robotic effect there. But, yeah. So, Hu Yang was meh. Like, I know we're going to see him in the next season, but I don't really care too much for him. What about you, Matt?
I didn't mind him, but like I'm just very like lukewarm on him. Like I don't care if he's there because he's like moving along the plot. Like he's the guy fixing stuff. He's the guy like look after the ship. He's just there for the plot.
Yeah.
And I guess for comic relief, I didn't find him that funny though.
No.
It's just instead of having another character, they're like let's just have a droid because it is Star Wars. They do exist everywhere. So. Yeah, I guess it was okay.
So, I was just going to say,
go ahead.
Crazy we've gone this far without mentioning the return of Hayden Christensen as well, again, as Anakin in this series, right?
Let's do it.
That was really the episode that really got things going for this show. I feel like I was into Ahsoka 3 episodes in, but it was in, I believe, the 4th episode where we spend all that time in the worlds between worlds, I think is what it's called. And we're getting some memories from Ahsoka's past. You get to see child actress play a young Ahsoka and then a teenage Ahsoka. That actress is the one who played like young Gamora too in Infinity War and Endgame. She was awesome, and she was in Barbie as well. So she's on the rise. This actress, I don't know her name, but really good. But no, loved seeing Hayden Christensen come back as Anakin. Another Jar Jar Binks situation where he was drove crazy by the fans through the hate that they would spew online. Like again, I've always said I've never had a problem with Hayden Christensen. I was always a fan of him as Anakin. He was great in this, and I would have liked to see even more of him. Hopefully, and they hinted at that at the end, he's a Force ghost now, so hopefully we can see more of him like mentor Ahsoka in his afterlife status, and she can learn from him as well. But sick fight scene with like him with a red lightsaber. That's something we never really got, right? To see Hayden Christensen, Anakin hold that red lightsaber at the height of his power. He's honestly one of the best actors who fights with a lightsaber. I want to say he's probably number one, honestly. Like just in the maneuvers that he's able to pull off, he's so cool doing those moves. And the cuts with him like through the smoke as Anakin and Darth Vader, just bone chilling and aesthetically pleasing, awesome stuff. I feel like I covered a lot there, man. But what were your thoughts on Anakin coming back?
I mean, I totally agree with you, Eric. That episode flew by for me. Like, I also think he was unjustly, like, witch hunted from 2 and 3. Like, nice. People hate on him so hard. If he's a young actor, he didn't write the dialogue. He was delivering the lines that Lucas wrote. If you don't like the dialogue, that's not his problem. The look of him, like, Hayden Christensen looked great in this. Like, perfectly. He looked the age. He looked like he looks good when he's fighting. You're right. Like, the actor. I know Hayden and Ewan McGregor trained like crazy to do for the fights, and Ewan McGregor, Ewan or Owen, anyways, Ewan McGregor also is very skilled there. I've seen him like on YouTube, like he can wield that lightsaber. Probably them and Ray Park as Darth Maul. Maul, they're probably like top 3, like can actually do this stuff.
Yeah.
But big fan of that episode. Cool to see a young Ahsoka because you're like, oh, that's Clone Wars. And like him calling her Snips, which is like a huge like fan servicing, but it's awesome. The battle in her mind, that whole episode, that was great. If you haven't seen Star Wars: The Clone Wars, like that's where you get peak Anakin like lightsaber fighting. Like the man's unstoppable on that show. He's a super badass. He takes down everyone. You see him grow darker and darker, like his mood and he's getting closer to the dark side on that show. It is still animated though, so it's. Yes, you can do anything you want with a lightsaber on that show, but like Anakin is the strongest. Pre-Darth Vader Anakin, even Darth Vader, we can arguably say is one of the strongest ever, but he's one of the best like sword fighting guys ever. So, cool episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool. And like I said, hopefully we get to see more of him down the road. And just again, probably the last comment on this character for me anyways, Baylan. I think all his fights with Ahsoka were awesome, and just goes to show like how strong he is, right? Like she's been able to go toe to toe with Vader, Darth Maul, and he got the upper hand like most times that they squared off, right? So guy's a beast. I hope maybe we get something down the road in him, like in the animated medium as well, like a young Baylan or something would be pretty sick. But for future season of Ahsoka, I'd want to see more of that plot, the like supernatural stuff that you said you enjoyed. I enjoyed as well. Shin, I think she's gonna still be around, like leading a pack of like Tusken Raider-esque characters. Then our characters try to find a way out of that galaxy. And I also want to see like maybe a trilogy of movies in between, and I don't know how this would look, but like in between episodes 6 and 7, covering like Thrawn is your villain kind of thing, all of that. But I don't know if they could pull that off of like episode 10, but it's happening between 6 and 7. You know, it's kind of weird. So maybe it's a one-off movie or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just a show.
I'm thinking a one-off movie.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more of a one-off movie because you're not renaming the episodes and you're not doing episode 10, which is a prequel. Like I said, this show did not answer every single question right up front. Like, here's all this information that we're feeding you right away. Like, oh, Baylan Skoll is this and he used to be this. Like, they didn't tell us that. They didn't tell us if he knew, like, if he was a general or if he was this. We have to, like, infer it. We have to, like, use our brains. And this show is way more adult and not kid friendly in that respect. Didn't force feed you all the answers. But no, overall, Ahsoka, very pleased with it. Is that because I have my Rebels nostalgia glasses on? Maybe this show, like, to me, it's like I hold it in very high regards. Yeah, I can't wait for more. Like, now I don't even know how long I have to wait. I just want more of that time period in Star Wars. Anything with Thrawn, the return of the Empire's prodigy or whatever. Like, I want to see all that stuff.
They call like, there's a novel series, I think, that covers, like, kind of either his rise or something like that, like how he becomes prominent. It's called The Heir to the Empire. So I could see that being, like, either an episode title, maybe a show title, a movie title. Like, I feel like we're gonna see Heir to the Empire somewhere. That's a sick title, first of all. And yeah, it's gonna be like the next things we're gonna see in this timeline is, like, how the Empire rose again and how the New Republic fell. And they've given us hints in all the different shows with, like, the Elia Kanes of the world and Moff Gideon and, like I said, incompetence of the New Republic. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what they do next. Nothing's been announced for a second season of Ahsoka, but, like, there's gonna be more with all these characters. It was well received. I loved the show. Like I said, got better as you went into it, and no filler, all killer. So those would be my thoughts on Ahsoka.
Yeah.
There's did a quick poll on Instagram of, like, asking people what their favorite Disney Plus show, Star Wars show was. So the breakdown, the options I gave were The Mandalorian, Andor, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan. Just out of respect, I threw Obi-Wan in there. I got 0 votes, just to be clear. So leading the way was The Mandalorian with 45% of the votes. That was the number one that people loved the most. Then Andor came in at number 2 with 36% of the votes. And Ahsoka came in with 18% of the votes. So if you're keeping track at home, that's 99%. So I don't know how that happened. Weird number of votes, I guess. But yeah, so Mando, Andor, Ahsoka in that order.
I mean, if we're encompassing Mando 1, 2, and 3, maybe Andor was great too. So Andor is more like can reach a broader audience, because if you haven't seen Rebels, I have a feeling Ahsoka is just, like, not as strong in your opinion. Is it fair to say that, like, you have to watch this 5-season show to make this show better, to appreciate this show more? Is that even fair to do to someone? I don't even know. But yeah, for sure, Mando 1 and 2 I'd put up there too. I'd probably be my favorite too. So that's a good poll. Good results.
We got one response from my friend Will, who said Andor is the best television show, but Ahsoka is the best Star Wars show, if that makes sense. Which I think it does make sense. Like,
it does.
Andor is really like it could be set in, like, a completely other universe. Like, there are references to the Star Wars universe, but it could just be like a political thriller set in space, and they got that intrigue and rebellion and all that. So I agree. And then Ahsoka is, like, full on lightsabers, creatures, the Force, all that. It's Star Wars at its finest. Also, faithful listener Ron Antoine submitted none of the above, not a fan, so not about these new Disney Plus Star Wars products, which I don't agree with, obviously, but it's not for everybody. Maybe it's gone too kid-friendly in a sense. I'm not sure, but that's it's a take.
Yeah, he was old enough to see the original Star Wars in theater. I know Ron, so maybe that's not his thing anymore. Maybe he just likes the OG trilogy, which is fine by me.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for voting. It's fun to get quite a few votes in there. Get us to a weird 99% number. I don't think you've ever seen that, but keep it coming. Always love when you get some fan and listener input. I'll just say my favorite Star Wars show right now has been Andor, honestly. One season, but I think it's been the best of them all. I've enjoyed, like, then ranking them after, like, Mando 1, 2, and Ahsoka would be very close. Like, I loved Ahsoka, and I love the first 2 seasons of Mando. Given that we've seen 3 seasons of Mando, I feel like overall it's been, like, let's say Andor next season's not that good, then maybe that affects how I score Andor compared to Mando, right? Same thing with Ahsoka.
I see.
So it's easier to have, like, one amazing season and say, like, that's the best one, but I stand by it for now. So,
Okay.
but it's great to see, like, this is where Star Wars is at. Like, right now, Star Wars is killing the Disney Plus content game. Aside from, like, minor, like, shows of lesser quality in Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett, which I still enjoyed parts of, the rest, like, the most part has been really fire content. Then you get into animated shows like Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, Star Wars Visions. So much good Star Wars out there.
Oh, they're for sure. They're overtaking Marvel in that respect, in my opinion. And we've already said this, but yeah, no, Star Wars is. I'm always excited to watch the new stuff, and I'm not getting any Star Wars fatigue anytime soon. If probably never will too. Like, I just love it that much. Might be my favorite, like, franchise and universe. That or Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure yet, but yeah. Did you want to recommend? Do you have stuff to recommend?
Well, I was going to say, like, I don't really know what's up next for Star Wars, honestly. Like, I don't know what the next project is. I know they've got a few things on the slate coming up, like the Acolyte show, which is going to cover, like, thousands of years before Phantom Menace. So looking at maybe the Rise of the Sith. I don't know if it's the first one or if it's just a Sith coming up. But I hope we see some dark stuff in that series, and it's all, again, just a linear storyline focusing on a fall of a Jedi and how a Sith order was established. Looking forward to that. Hopefully we get Mando season 4. I don't know if that's going to be next year, but I'd like to see that come sooner than later to maybe bounce back a bit for Mando season 3. And I want an announcement on a movie too. Would be nice to have. Like, I know with the writer's strike, it's been a little more difficult to get content and concrete dates on what's in production, but hopefully in the next few years we can get back to the cinema and see a nice Star Wars movie that has been thought out. And it's going to hopefully just be building off what these shows has laid down. Like, that's what I want to see.
That's excellent, Eric. I agree too with the Acolyte has huge potential, but huge potential too for failure. Like, it can go either way, in my opinion. It'd be cool if that show, though, delved even more into the myth of, like, Sith and Jedi and the religion. Like, that'd be cool, because we don't really know much. Unless, like, you do, like, unless you read all the novels, and, like, I don't do that either. I don't read online or have read a lot of the books. In terms of future, hopefully the next, I want to talk about the movies. It's been 4 years since the last movie. We probably won't get a movie in the next 2 years. It takes so long to make. So, like, honestly, maybe it's better to wait 10 years. Like, do, like, 10 years after Rise of Skywalker, and then we finally get our Star Wars movie, the start of a trilogy. Build up the hype. That'd be cool. Like, I don't know, like, Force Awakens, there's so much hype for that movie, you know, 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. That was insane. Like, it made so much money. It'd be cool if they didn't, like, and then their problem was after having, like, a standalone movie in between each sequel. So, and then we got tired after Solo, I think. I think that's the point. After The Last Jedi and Solo back to back, that kind of, like, pissed off everybody. But I hope they learn from their mistakes, basically. And
again, like you said, like, if it's true, if they announce a movie already, like, oh, it's out in 2026 or whatever, like, okay, like, still 7 years is a long time, but it's still, like, not that much time, and there's been a lot of shows, so it's not like we've been starving for Star Wars content necessarily. So going maybe the Avatar Way of Water route as well, of, like, years down the road, like, everyone's going to go back to the theater, and it'll make a ton of money, and there's going to be real hype around it. I just wonder, though, if they can do that if they want to go with these Rebels characters. Like, you want to capitalize on these actors right now, right? Like, you don't want to wait 10 years for, like, okay, you remember Ezra from all the way back when? Like, now he's got his movie kind of thing. But they don't have to go with Ezra and these characters as well, right? So, like, the Ahsoka we end up seeing is, like, in a wheelchair because it's been so long since she's been on the sidelines. But,
movie opens up. Ahsoka hermit like Obi-Wan and A New Hope. It's like Ahsoka just like, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I don't know, a new trilogy, I don't know if you go past episode 9 or you fill in a gap, but then you can't number it if you do that. You have to do a trilogy that's like the rise of the First Order, but then we know the outcome to that. I think you go past episode 9 and you completely start from, like, you do a different story.
Or, like, you go in a different galaxy, like, just completely unrelated to what we've seen. Like, I don't know why I guess because there's so much established in this world that they want to just take from what's already built and can make references to things. So they're afraid of, like, taking a shot with, like, completely new worlds and all that. But it's such a wide... There's so many, like, different, like you said, outer rim, mid rim. Like, they can go so far out there that it doesn't always have to relate back to the Skywalkers, right? So, we'll see.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm good to cap off on Star Wars there. Like, that's kind of all I had.
Yeah, me too. Did you want to recommend? I have a couple things to recommend.
Yeah, you can set it off.
All right. Since it's October, I'm going to be talking about horror movies and a TV show. Horror movies. One that just came out this year. Been getting kind of a lot of buzz. Went to the theater for a little bit. Got a lot of hype from the festivals. It's a supernatural horror movie from Australia. It's called Talk to Me. The reason why this movie stands out is it takes a genre and tropes that we've seen a million times and adds its own twist that we've never really seen before done well. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm going to like leave it as a spoiler-free review. Okay. But like they kind of change the genre and make it more original, and it's like super fast-paced movie in my opinion. Like I said, it's a supernatural horror movie with teenagers. It was freaking awesome in my opinion. Fresh take on supernatural movies. Yeah, it was gory. It was emotional. It wasn't boring. It was well written. Talk to me. A really, really solid horror movie that came out in 2023. Australian too. So that's my first recommendation.
Okay.
And just quickly, I'm going to say I watched Sanctuary, Eric.
Oh, nice.
You talked about it last episode. Yeah. I really dug it.
Okay.
I like two actors in a movie just in one room, like a play, basically, a play type movie. I was never bored. It was, the twists and turns really kept me into it, even though sometimes I didn't really agree with the twist and the turn. I was like, okay, well, at least they're keeping it fresh, and I don't know where the hell it's going. Ultimately, by the end, actually, I was satisfied with the ending. So, good recommendation, and I think you guys should check out the Sanctuary, people listening. So, yeah.
Nice. I'm glad you liked it, and yeah, I mean, it's you never know where a movie like that is gonna go in the end, and when they can hit on a good note of like, okay, like, that makes sense. I'm satisfied with this ending. Like it makes or breaks the movie, right? So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It does.
And I've heard of Talk to Me. I've not seen it, obviously there, but okay, I've actually only heard good things about it, so should give it a spin then. I have not watched many, if any, horror movies this fall so far, and I feel like the window is closing soon. So I've actually just been off movies in general. I haven't watched a movie since... Actually, I'm watching the Harry Potter movies right now. I'm going to watch Prisoner of Azkaban after recording this. So, come on, Harry Potter. It's a no-brainer. This time of year, too, is like kind of when I like to watch it. Some people like it during Christmas. For me, it's fall. That's prime time, HP time. I guess for me, what I could recommend in terms of like... Yeah, I'll go with the show. So I'm watching a ton of shows right now, actually. And one I'll throw in, which I just started last night, which I'm enjoying quite a bit, is the spin-off show from the show The Boys. It's called Gen V. Have you heard of this, Matt?
What? No, I have not.
Oh, no? Okay.
Gen V.
So...
Oh, yeah, on Prime.
Yeah, it's on Prime. It's actually running right now. Like, they're dropping episodes every Friday. I think there's 2 episodes left to drop at the time of recording. And it's essentially you're following these college students that all have superpowers. They go to this university, God University, basically.
Okay.
And it's like The Boys but in college. You're following a young woman called Marie. She has her own powers. She's with her roommate, and they're getting into all kinds of trouble like at university and stuff. Like just the usual things you'd expect in university. It's like kind of like a sky high to make a Mary Elizabeth. What I always forget her last name. That actress, her Winslet.
Winstead.
Yeah,
Winstead,
her.
yeah.
Yeah, let's bring her back in. Why not, Gwen? And there's just a lot of good stuff. It's hilarious so far. I've only watched the first 2 episodes, but I'm finding it really funny. I love the style, and the boys are building like a pretty solid universe that I do think you have to have seen The Boys to really enjoy it. Like you can probably get into it, you'd be missing some things, but they drop a lot of references to things that have happened in. It's set in the same timeline as The Boys as well, so it's current day.
Okay.
I think following season 3, as far as I can understand. So I'm enjoying it a lot. Gen V on Prime Video. If you've seen The Boys, I think this is must watch.
All right, I'll have to check it out because The Boys, I love that show.
So good.
Good. I saw the Gen V and I didn't read up on it, Eric, and I had no idea it was part of The Boys. And if I had known, I may have clicked on it. The one TV show I'm watching now, which I'm almost done. I never binge watch a show throughout the week, but this one I had to. This is from Netflix. This is The Fall of the House of Usher, directed by Mike Flanagan, who has done such great shows as Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, and Midnight Mass. This is his 4th Netflix series, and it doesn't disappoint in my opinion. It's got a lot of the same actors that he likes to use in his shows and movies. It's got the same scares and creepiness. Well, this is all based off of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories, and every episode is named after an Edgar Allan Poe short story and kind of tributes it in its own way, which I love. I love this show. I'm on the last episode. There's 8 episodes. I love it because the actors in it are phenomenal, cool storytelling. Nothing freaking complex and that you have to think about for a million years. It's simple, but it does what it does really well, and it's creepy and gory and macabre. That's like the best word to describe it. It's Edgar Allan Poe. It's a love letter to Edgar Allan Poe is what this show is. You can see that Mike Flanagan is a huge fan of his work. I had to keep watching the show every night this week in between the hockey because I love it. I love it that much. Maybe I'm super biased, but super solid show in my opinion. The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix. Nice. I recommend it 100%, Eric.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the first one, Hill House. Then I like Bly Manor as well. Then Midnight Club. There's 2 of those, no? Midnight Club and Midnight Mass, were there not?
That's right. There is Club. I never watched Club.
Yeah, I think I started one of them. I think Club I started and wasn't into it. And I watched Midnight Mass. We talked about it on the pod, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, the actor, funnily enough, full circle, the actor who played, the sheriff in Midnight Mass was someone people were pushing to play Ezra in Ahsoka. People wanted that guy to be cast as Ezra. And I think he even tweeted, hey, at Dave Filoni or whatever, hire me as Ezra Bridger or whatever. That would have been crazy, but I like that actor, actually. He was good in those shows. But okay, right on. I'll add that to the list, and it's just another show to juggle for me. Why not? And, I mean, good time to watch that, right? I see it just dropped a week ago on the 12th, so good stuff. I had not even heard of this, to be honest, so glad to see Mike Flanagan still giving her. Did he cast his wife in this one too, or no?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Nice.
Of course he did. And the actor who plays the sheriff guy from Midnight Mass is also in House of Usher. All of the actors he always uses are back, in this show.
Did he get Saracen again?
A lot of characters. Who?
Saracen from...
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he's back? Oh,
he did.
God.
Yeah.
That's too good.
Yeah, from Friday Night Lights.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, he's in House of Usher. And also Mark Hamill.
Oh,
wow. No joking. Mark Hamill is a main character in this show, and it's so weird to see.
Interesting.
Because I'm only used to I'm not used to seeing him as anything other than Luke. So, yeah. Good show.
Okay, nice. So, yeah, Gen V for me. What else? Not that much, honestly. There's music that drops every week that I listen to, and most of it I like at least one every week. There's one that just dropped today, actually, that I could share. It's a short album, 9 songs, and it's like 24 minutes long, called Doses by Michi Darko. So 1/3 of the Flatbush Zombies has a pretty eerie cadence about him inherently. So very raspy voice, can get into like some horror style raps. I feel like this is seasonally correct. Yeah, he just dropped a surprise 9 song capsule called Doses. I've listened to half of it so far, but I've enjoyed it all. So I'm assuming the last half is good too. So if you like his style, I'd recommend check it out. It's good, good raps. He's a dope rapper. So Doses, Michi Darko.
I did see that it dropped. I haven't listened to it yet though, but I saw this morning.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I did not expect to see that. There was that one in the West Side Gun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not. I'll listen to the Michi Darko first because the other one's like 18 songs.
Yeah.
But
well, that one I knew was dropping, and then You Pray for Me. I was definitely anticipating that. That was not a surprise release for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't look ahead, so.
Yeah.
What did you listen to the West Side Gun? Like, is it?
Yeah, so I've listened to it twice, and I guess I could say like my thoughts on 2 listens. Not exactly what I was expecting, to be honest. I went into it thinking like, okay, like this is probably gonna be a surefire like top 10 album for me. I don't know if it's gonna be, to be honest. It's different. There's a lot of songs I like a lot, but I have to run it back a few times to see if like cohesively I like the whole thing. And he's saying this is like his last album too. He said he's still gonna do projects here and there, but he considers this like a full-on album, which he approaches differently. Okay. So I'm not gonna dismiss it. There's some songs I maybe didn't love as much, but that's been the case with a lot of his albums too. That there's some skips too, right? So I think I don't want to be judging too early, and maybe in a few months I come around completely and I'm like, I love this album. So first thoughts, I would say listen to it though and see what you think.
No, I'll for sure check it out. It takes me way more than me. It takes me over like 10 less. Like the album has to be re-listened a bunch of times for me to make my list because like it changes too. Like sometimes you think I've listened to so many albums. I think it's the best thing ever, and then like 5 more listens, I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. So yeah, good call, Eric. I have one more movie to talk about, and that's it for me. It's on Amazon Prime, called Totally Killer. It's a slasher movie that came out this year. It's actually a time travel slasher movie, starring Kernan Shipka. Kernan Shipka's from, she was the daughter of John Hamm in Mad Men. She played Sabrina the Teenage Witch in the new spin-off show that came out. She's an up-and-coming young actress. She's really good. I dig her in a lot of stuff, like everything I've seen her in. She's our main character. There's like a killer in the movie that killed like 30 years ago. They still haven't figured out who did it. Like I said, there's a fantasy time travel element involved or sci-fi element involved. She ends up going back to the day before the killer does all his killings and tries to figure out what's going on. That's all I'm gonna say. I unveiled like the first 15 minutes here, so it's not really a huge spoiler. But you get a lot of cool 80s stuff. The dialogue's super sharp. This is the strength of the movie is the really good dialogue and the kills. It's funny, but it gets brutal really quick. And when it's time to be violent, like they don't pull any punches. But it's also like a horror comedy. Like it's funny when the characters are interacting. You know, she meets up with like people that she knows as adults, but now they're much younger. They're all in high school, so it's kind of funny. It's a good horror slasher. If you wanna watch a good horror film for Halloween, Totally Killer is a really fun movie that I recommend.
Okay, right on. So, Totally Killer, Prime Video. Check it out. Yeah, so I think it's a good spot to wrap it up. By the time this drops, it's probably the last time that we're in the seasonally correct time to really get into those horror movies, so check those ones out.
Right.
And Gen V if you want. Like, it's obviously very dark comedy / action as well, so it could fit if you want as well. And Doses, why not? So, great stuff, Matt. Love talking Star Wars with you as per usual. Any final notes for the listeners?
No, just thank you everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed our Star Wars talk. I hope we made you appreciate the shows even more, or like made you want to rewatch some stuff. Let us know what you thought too, if you'd like. Yeah, Eric, this is super fun. I love talking Star. We could have an 8 hour podcast on Star Wars,
Yeah.
just the prequel trilogy or something.
Yeah.
3 hour commentary. But yeah, no, thank you everybody for listening.
So yeah, thanks a lot everybody for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Hope you enjoy your fall, enjoying all the sports and yeah, fun, good fall weather. And yeah, peace.